Welcome back to the Intangible Podcast. I'm excited to be sitting here with Jelani Jenkins. Jelani has a tremendous story that I'm really excited to dive into. 4th round draft pick by the Miami Dolphins in 2013. Was a starting linebacker there from 13 to 16. Racked up over 200 career tackles in NFL. And again, he was one of those, he's an SEC guy, Florida Gators. You know, he was definitely tell he's definitely one of those leader type guys because he was a team captain there. He had the versatility, the IQ, football IQ. But interesting story about him is, you know, what I'm excited to dive into. He retired. He walked away from the game. Most guys don't walk away from the game early. He walked away at age 26, became an entrepreneur, investor, and an advocate for athlete financial literacy. And so really excited to dive into his story. Jelani, welcome to the Intangible Podcast, my friend.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the intro. I feel good coming into this with that intro.
Yeah, here we go. Well, Jelani, like I said, man, your story is so interesting because, you know, we all strive to get to the NFL and play for a long time. And you decided to walk away at the age of 26. And so which for me makes me think about, again, all these pieces around intangibles makes me think about upbringing. So I want to kind of really start there, you know, before Florida, before the league, you know, what shaped you as a young man to, you know, hindsight now looking back and say, you know, these are the things that was my foundational pieces within my family that helped me and made it easier for me to make those type of decisions.
Yeah, you said it right there. It was family. I was truly blessed. My childhood was truly blessed. I had 2 parents in the home. My mom and dad, they got divorced, but it wasn't like a terrible situation. I went to my mom's one week, went to my dad's the next week. And my stepfather, very close with my dad and my stepfather, like played basketball together. So it's like a very like loving environment that I grew up in. And they were very supportive. And I would say when it comes to like my upbringing, my foundation, it was rooted in love. It was also rooted in purpose. My father, he is an architect, and he always challenged me to have a why behind sports. He always challenged me to know how I'm going to use that platform to support my community, to uplift the people who need it most. And that was instilled in me from a very young age. Another thing that was instilled in me from a very young age was mindset. So my father was big on like affirmations and speaking life into me. So that foundation truly is what I'm still using to this day and how I'm actually starting to serve in my life after sports.
Yeah. And so, you know, when you think about it, think about those type of affirmations and that kind of foundation, you know, how was the discipline side of, you know, was pushed around education? And so, you know, were you the kid that had to come in with straight A's, or, hey, you're in the doghouse, or was it a different approach when it came to the education side of things?
You know, I was never the child that ruffled the feathers with education, because I was always getting good grades. Like, I don't remember ever getting bad grades to have the conversation of, you better only bring A's into this home. Like, I think I was always inquisitive and I always wanted to learn. And I mean, maybe that was just the natural environment that my household had. Like, I did have to do my homework. I did have to get things done. But they put me in a really great school. My elementary and middle school was a small private school. It was a school called Roots Activity Learning Center. It was an African center school. We wore dashikis in our graduation, but we were taught like African American history. We were taught about, like, we walk in and there were pictures of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali, all of these great heroes and sheroes. We would, for Halloween, we wouldn't celebrate like Halloween. We would have like this masquerade disco where everybody would come dressed up as a prominent African-American figure. And we would get up to the mic and we would say who we were and what we did and what we accomplished. So there was a lot of pride in being in my skin color. And I think all of that, just the environments that they had me in, made me truly be purposeful every time I stepped into a classroom. So I didn't give him too much trouble with the bad grades, you know?
Yeah, that's what's up. Now I'm thinking about the the type of school that you're growing up in. When did sports kind of really take a hold for you? When was that it became a thing for you?
So my brother, he's 7 years older than me. I just have one sibling, a 7-year older brother. He went to a school called St. John's, which is in the same conference of the school that I ended up going to. But watching him at his football games, I was in the bleachers, playing underneath the bleachers, playing with the other kids, throwing ball. You know how that goes.
Not watching the game.
Not watching the game, but playing our own little game on the side. That was when I first was introduced to football. That's when I first kind of fell in love with the idea, fell in love with the sport. So I would say I was like 8, maybe, when I first started. I started off flag football. Wasn't great at flag football, to be honest with you. I was like, my parents knew that I wanted to tackle. They knew that I wanted to like get contact. And so I started that next year in contact football. I think I was like 8 or 9 years old. And yeah, the rest was history. Again, I had a father and a mother and a stepfather and a support system that was on the sideline every single game. Like, my dad used to be running up and down the sideline, making other parents upset. And they can't stop you, Jelani. Every time you touch the ball, you're supposed to score it. 2 people, 3 people, 4 people can't bring you down. And he would just be running up and down the sideline the whole time. So that was my upbringing. So sports kind of picked up probably like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, was that embarrassing as your dad walking up and down, running up and down the sideline? How did you handle that?
It was. I mean, it was embarrassing, but it was also effective. Like I didn't know any better. I was naive enough to believe everything he was saying. And I think at the time I noticed that there were no other parents who were doing that. So I was just kind of like, I was shy. So growing up, my dad was kind of my microphone. So we would walk in places and I wouldn't be saying much because my dad would be, my dad was the type that, like, we would walk into a 7-Eleven and he would have like all my newspaper articles in his hand. And we're just trying to get like a damn like smoothie or something or a Slurpee. And he's talking about, yeah, my son was in the newspaper article, bam, 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 bam. So, I just got used to being like, that's my dad,
Do you think about what do you think about from a subconscious level of what did that really do for you growing up with a father that is giving you that kind of affirmation, not just the words, but the visuals? Do you think about that from a subconscious level?
I do now. At the time, I didn't know it. At the time, I thought everybody was getting it. It wasn't until probably when I stopped playing that I allowed myself to reflect on what was it that got me to this level. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who are just as talented, more talented, that I was able to keep moving past. I was like, what was it? Like, what was that thing? It was waking up in a room. My father, again, artist, architect, he had a larger than life painting of me over my bed, running a football. And then he had like Hall of Fame pictures all around, from Barry Sanders to Walter Payton to Dick Butkus. And I was the largest painting in that room. And you feel me? Like that was a psychological. Yeah. So I had to look back and be like, oh, this mindset thing is serious. This mindset thing is real. And that is what inspired me to do what I'm doing now in like mental performance and helping others out. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's, man, what a foresight that your dad had and how he was, again, these subliminal messages that he was instilling into you early in life. And it goes true. Like, when you can look back from where we are now, hindsight, mindset has become everything for me. It's really, there's really, the work that I put in and day out is around that mindset aspect of things. And then the body and the mind, the rest of it follows when you have the right mindset. The good deeds 100%. And the good things happen when you have that kind of mindset. So,
100%.
So again, not everyone was getting that. I can tell you that. As a kid, I wasn't getting that. I was getting a lot of love, but I wasn't getting it that way. And so, good for your dad for being able to see it that way.
Yes, it's a blessing. And it's interesting when I see other, prominent figures who have made a lot of success in sports, in life, and I look deep into their stories, it does seem like they had like one parent that was their biggest confidant, from the Michael Jordans of the world to the Tiger Woods of the world. I mean, you can keep going down the list. There was a prominent adult figure who believed in them and helped them instill their own belief in themselves. It's remarkable. That's part of the reason why I have a podcast about fatherhood, is because it's that important that we instill it in our kids.
3, 2, 1. Parents, the recruiting process is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever face for your child. And talent isn't enough. Coaches are looking for the intangibles, like composure, coachability, communication, and leadership. And that's what Team Q measures. Get clear insights into your child's intangibles so they stand out when it matters most. Go to teamq.io and help your athlete unlock greatness.
Now, growing up, though, you started getting introduced to football. Were you thinking about, was football a goal of yours to go far in football, or did you have something on your mind that was much bigger that you wanted to do in life?
That's a great question. That school that I shared with you, Roots Activity Learning Center, I remember we did an assignment. It was called Dreams and Goals, and we had to write down what we wanted to accomplish and why we wanted to accomplish it. And way back then, I wrote down I wanted to make it to the NFL. I said my plan B was to be an architect like my dad. But I said that I wanted to make it to the NFL so that I can bring people closer to God, like share my relationship with God through my platform. So again, it started very young with my dad saying, like, I couldn't do a science project. I couldn't do a science project without explaining to him how it's going to help the Black community. Like, I couldn't just go in there and do a volcano simple science project, because he'll look at me crazy and be like, how is that going to help your community? So yeah, I always had a why behind it. And I always knew that, like, the NFL wasn't the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And I always knew that I wanted to get there because I knew that was going to, give me a platform to be able to do more. Muhammad Ali was always my hero. And he was like the example of what it meant to use your platform to impact more people.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Now, when you look back at, again, I always like that, going back to hindsight, what part of your upbringing really prepared you to even play in NFL?
I can look back at a couple of things. One thing that stands out to me is I took karate at a young age. I should have been a black belt. They said I was too young to be a black belt, so they gave me a brown with a little tip, which I'm still upset about. But karate taught me how to explode through contact. It taught me discipline. It taught me to be coachable, which I think were 3 major things that I used all the way throughout. What else prepared me? I went to the University of Florida. I was very fortunate to play under the system of Urban Meyer year after they won a national championship, to feel what that feels like. That was probably the biggest thing for me. I chose to go to the University of Florida knowing that I was going to be behind Brandon Spikes, knowing that I wasn't going to start. When I had a really prominent high school career, I was very fortunate. I was one of the top 10 players in all of high school and all the country. And I chose to go to a school knowing I wasn't going to start, my first year. But I wanted to feel what the number one in the world locker room felt like. I wanted to see it. I wanted to learn from it. I wanted to be coached by it. And being in that locker room, I mean, it was a fast track to understanding, okay, this is how you get to the highest level. Right. So yeah, that's what I would say. Prior to college, obviously family, the support system, the village and the environment that I was around. Once I got to college, it was like, oh, this is what a championship level feeling team looks and feels like.
Man, that's I forgot that you came in, behind those guys. I mean, Spice. I mean, you guys and that team, and that even when you look at the documentary that came out, I mean, it was tough training, tough workouts. I mean, it was like no holds bar in that place. And so, you go on to become a captain. So, what did that environment early on teach you about being a leader? Teach you about being the guy that guys can turn to and look at, and you can hold them accountable while doing your job at a high level.
Again, you used the right word in the question. Accountability was one of the biggest things I learned. I got there. So if you saw the documentary, Swamp Kings, I got there that was the last episode. I got there the year after they won the national championship, when the pressure was high, when it was like media outlets, it was like Tebow mania. It was a whole lot of stuff that ended up infiltrating kind of what made the team special and started to make us, hurt us a little bit. But it was accountability. Like I tell people all the time, it was nothing like the night before the game, being at the hotel, and we're all sitting there in like suits or whatever, and we're in the meeting room in the special teams, and they call out the special teams. We're doing walkthroughs, and they call out the special teams. Punt team up on the field, and we all run up on the field. It's not even a field. It's like a hotel conference room. But we all run in there. We're moving around, acting like it's real life. And he's like, Jelani, what do you got? I got number 2. I got to reroute him outside. Boom. Bostic, what do you got? I got number 3. I got to make sure I keep contained all the way down the field. Boom, boom, boom. And if you hesitated for a second, he was going to make sure you knew about it. So it wasn't just you knowing what you were doing. It was you instilling confidence in everybody around you that you knew what you were doing. Every time we stepped on that field, I was very confident that all other 10 people on that field knew exactly what they were doing and why they were doing it. And that was his mantra, was like, when is a team ready to play when they know what they're doing and why they're doing it? And we all knew what we were doing and why we were doing it. And we had to hold each other accountable for it. So you saw that. I came in as a freshman. When you saw Spikes and Tebow going at it at that Mississippi State game, halftime locker room, that was 2 juggernauts holding each other accountable. And it's like, oh, nobody is not able to be held accountable. So I took that with me, and that is a big thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, again, we see talent. I mean, we've been in locker rooms. We see guys who become captain based off their talent. What really separates those guys from, the guy from who is a good captain, a great captain that can lead, not just because he's talented?
I think it's somebody who is able to understand the standard of the locker room that we're aiming for. Like, what is that championship standard? What does that look and feel like? I think a great captain is somebody who can help to set that standard, to embody that standard. So when people see you, it's kind of like you look at like a war, somebody's like a flag bearer, and they're, everyone has to look at that person and be able to see and feel what that standard is, right?
Right.
So they got to set the standard. They got to embody the standard in all that they do. Even when they're tired, they got to make sure that whenever somebody looks at them, they see that standard, that flag. And then I think the last thing is they got to be able to elevate others around them to also meet that standard. And that sometimes that's holding others accountable. So if you see somebody and they're showing up late, they're not running to the ball, the best captains are the ones that are going to, in their own unique way, make sure that they can elevate that person up. It's not all mother effing them. Sometimes it's pulling them to the side like, hey, we're better than that. You're better than that. I've seen it in you. So you can speak life into people. You don't got to shoot them down. And then there's others who, the Michael Jordans of the world, they won a lot of national championships, and he was mother effing them. Tom Brady, I heard, was an amazing teammate, but I'm sure Tom Brady, I've seen him get fired up in people's face too. So like, if you can, however you choose to elevate is your unique style. But you got to know your teammates around you to know what is going to elevate that particular teammate. Because mother effing this person could work. Mother effing this person could shoot them completely down. So it's just about knowing your team, setting the standard, embodying it, and elevating others around you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love the analogy of the flag bearer, man, because that is, in war, you looking at that guy, and then on the other side is being able to hold accountable. And so I love that analogy around that. Now, when you look at playing at the University of Florida, SEC, coming off championship, before you get there and now wanting to carry that on, what was one of the biggest pressure moments for you in college?
Probably the decision to leave a little early to go into the NFL. Coming into my redshirt junior year, I was projected to be a first rounder, and I had a lot of injuries. And the second game against Texas A&M, I broke my hand, was out a couple of games, had a cast on, coming back in. As soon as I came back into play, I pulled my groin, which took me out 3 games. And then I got better. I got some good tape in, even with the broken hand. And my last game of the season, we were playing Florida State, and I was running off the edge, and freak accident. I took a step, and all of a sudden couldn't put any weight on my foot anymore. I ended up breaking my 5th metatarsal. This is called a Jones fracture in my foot. Jones. Yeah, and that put me out. And I remember contemplating, I remember I had some coaches, and I won't name the coach's name, but I had some coaches who were doing everything that they could to make sure I stayed at the University of Florida. And they were telling me things like, if you go into the draft, you're not going to get drafted. You're going to end up being a free agent. And I had to really sit with it and believe in myself. And that was the biggest pressure moment, was making the decision to say, I'm ready to go. And not only am I ready to go, I'm going to trust that who I decide to choose as an agent, where I decide to train, that staff is going to get me ready for the combine, or at least for a pro day, to be able to. I was confident enough with my senior year film and my junior year film, my sophomore year film, to know that I can make this happen. I can do it. So ended up going 4th round, and was proud of getting my foot in the door. I just knew if I got my foot in the door, I'll be fine.
Yeah. That is a tough decision. I had a decision to make my redshirt junior year, and decided to make it, and it worked out for me. But it's definitely a lot of pressure, because it's the same thing. You got coaches on the other side. We had a new coaching staff, and they're doing everything they can to keep you there. And I'm thinking that I'm going back because I'm, loving Oxford, Mississippi, loving,
where'd you go,
being
Chris?
at Ole Miss. Went to Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Yeah, love being at Ole Miss, and so it was definitely a high pressure moment for me. But I never really thought about it as I always think about it as high pressure moments in actually being on the field. But when you really take a step back and look at it, man, that was a really high pressure moment, because it was life changing for me, and it could have went one way, it could have went 2 different ways, and so so it did work out. So. In that moment of making that decision to go, was there any doubt? Was there any questioning the decision? Were you, questioning, I've had some injuries, can my body hold up and at the next level, being that now it's, I'm with the best of the best? Did you have that kind of thought process or those type of doubts going through your mind as you were making that jump over?
Yeah, I think anybody would be lying if they said that it if it didn't cross their mind, like, what if it doesn't work? I remember, fourth round is the third day of the draft. And if you were told at one point that you would go first round, that first day goes, didn't hear your name. Second day goes, didn't hear your name. I said, oh, shit, here we go. And then that third day came, and thankfully I was like the fourth pick of the fourth round. It was like one of the first picks, so I didn't have the full third day. But yeah, there's definitely doubt. I think back at that injury that I had, that Florida State game, when I was in, and I didn't see this, my dad told me this, but when I was in there getting surgery, one of the coaches came to the hospital where I was getting the surgery. My dad was sitting there in the waiting room, and they came up to my dad and was like, how's he doing? Good. Or they don't know, he's in there getting surgery. And they handed him like some information showing why it would be good for him to stay. And my dad was like, man, get that out of my face, man. My son is in there getting surgery. Y'all in
doing surgery? Wow.
During surgery. And they're in there with the papers, like, it's completely rubbed them the wrong way. But anyway, to answer your question of if there was doubt, yes, certainly. But it goes back to my upbringing and the fact that my dad was right there. And I believed, and I knew that he believed. Right. And that's all I really needed. You know what I mean? So I had doubt, but the belief was stronger, having a lot to do with my upbringing and my support system.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it worked out for you. You end up getting drafted by Miami Dolphins in the fourth round, and then you go on to become a starter. You make over 200 tackles in your career there. From a successful standpoint and making that transition, what was that experience like? What was the internal experience like of, now I've proved it, now the decision that I made actually, worked out because I've been able to really produce at this highest level?
Yeah, I never really felt comfortable until I got the starting position. I started feeling a little bit more comfortable. But I mean, my first year, I was a third down guy. So we had like Donnell Ellaby and Phillip Wheeler, who had just gotten these big contracts. So I kind of understood the business. I was like, okay, I didn't get paid that much, so I'm not expected to be the guy, the starter. I'm not on the Jumbotron for the ads and whatnot. So I kind of understood I got to get special teams is going to be my way in here and third down. Right. My second season, the second game of the season, we were playing the Patriots. We were both 1-0 at the time. And the Patriots came to Miami. The first series of the game, Donnell Ellaby goes down, out the game. Second series, Phillip Wheeler goes down. He's out the game. It's like 3 or 4 minutes into the game, and they throw me in there, and Jason Trusnett, he was mainly a special teams guy, and we're sitting there, and Tom Brady staring us in the face, and they smelled blood in the water. They went after me. From Gronkowski to Shane Vereen, like, they went after me, and fortunately, I not only held my own, but I think they attempted to pass on me about 13 times, and they only completed 4 total. Wow. And we ended up winning that game in the last second. I don't know if you remember that game, but it was a game when Michael Thomas caught an interception on the last play in the end zone, and we ended up beating the Patriots. And the rest, I never didn't start after that. So that was kind of that moment for me. And I tell people, it's like I grew up rooting on Peyton Manning. I've seen Tom Brady destroy my Colts for a long time. And you're staring, he's staring you in the eye, and he's saying, 53 is the mic. You don't got time to think about nothing else. It's like, we're here, So what prepares you for that moment? Everything that led up to that moment. But the biggest thing in that moment is just to be present and to realize God put you right in this moment, And I believe that the opportunity in that moment wouldn't come unless you're ready for it, So trust yourself.
Yeah. Well, I was that guy on the other side of you saying 53 is the mic.
Yeah. I know it.
Yeah. 53 is the mic, and if he was a thumper coming downhill, I might have to cut this guy one time just to let him know, hey, don't be coming down here like that.
I hated it, man. I was the type that I would take the back of the helmet and mush it in the ground if y'all got me good. I'm like, I'm gonna get you back, damn it. I got cut left and right though. That was my kryptonite.
I don't know if I don't know the rules now, but I don't know if you can cut the way we used to be able to cut. I mean,
really?
I don't think so. Yeah,
I'm happy. If that's the case, I'm happy. I'm happy that it's moving in the right direction. Thank God.
Well, I don't know. You know, you got guys coming downhill now at 4'5" and 4'7" at 260 pounds, and you still in your stance. Yeah. I mean, you got to be able to do something.
I feel it.
Well, when I think about these high school athletes now, college athletes, and this constant, evaluation, not just when you also talking about social media, they're getting constantly evaluated, amongst their peers, especially, you talk about these DBs, they don't want to get head top, they don't want to be seen, so there's a constant evaluation. How did you handle constantly being evaluated, day in and day out, and not let it waver you from being the type of player you were?
I think social media was just starting to get to that level when I was playing. I remember, let me think. I remember some games I wouldn't play well, and I remember seeing a lot of comments that were disturbing to me. I had some good mentors around me, like some good older players who were like, don't focus on that. Don't pay attention to that. But it's not easy. It's not an easy thing. I do think that it affected me in some ways. I don't think that I had the tools back then to navigate it. Another part of my story is my last year with the Miami Dolphins. I played, we were playing the 49ers at the time. I'm sorry. It was the year that Kaepernick did the protest. And we were playing the Seahawks. It was 9/11, and I participated in that protest. It was me, Mike Thomas, Kenny Stills, and Arian Foster with the Miami Dolphins. And after that, social media was, I remember going onto the bus and talking to my homeboy, and they were like, I was like, y'all, they are letting me have it on social media. Letting me have it. And he was just like, anyone just put that phone down for a second. Just put the phone down. But after that, it was challenging. We got through it. But I do think that a large part of me walking away from the game had to do with psychologically not having the tools to navigate the mental health challenges I was going through, for sure. And I learned it. I got to a point where I had those tools 2 or 3 years after the league, but when I was that young pup in the league, I felt like I had to step away to find my groundedness, to find my truth again. So to answer your question, I don't think I figured it out while I was playing. I think I figured it out after the fact.
All right. So you talked about, not having those tools, which we'll get into, but did the business side of the game really hit you at some point where when you realize like, oh my gosh, this is a real business?
Yeah, definitely. I think what I loved most about football had to do with the feeling I got in the University of Florida locker room. In college, like you're with the same folks, you come in with the same folks. This is before the transfer portal was doing this thing. But back then, you go in, you come in college and you're with the same people and you build like a family of love. I was on that path. I had 4 years at my high school, 4 years in the same college team, and 4 years with Miami with the Dolphins. I played really well. That 4th season with the Dolphins, which I didn't talk about, was very similar to my 4th season with the Gators, where I had a bunch of injuries. Right. And these weren't injuries that took me out. They were injuries that just made me a little bit less effective. So, man, you know how that goes. It's almost worse.
It really is. It's things that don't completely sideline you, but just those little nagging things, like I've broken my thumb where I had to all of a sudden on my right hand, my snap hand go and start snapping with my left hand, 2-3 days before a game, play a game, and then really trying to figure out how to adjust to that. And it was just always, then you have a oblique strain. Then you have a little calf strain. And so all these things that don't really sideline you, but just really nagging and just not make you as effective as you want to be. So I totally understand that.
And now it's 3rd down, 3rd and 5, and they throw to my guy. And I usually can make that tackle and I miss it. And now our defense is still on the field. Now you're letting the team down. You feel me?
Yeah.
Now you in your head about it. Now you're like, do I got it still? And they had told me, because I had a knee injury, ACL, I had a PCL, I had loose cartilage floating. I had like surgery right before the year, but it was surgery. It wasn't bad. It was like, I could still play in 10 days. It was like a knee scope kind of thing. But anyway, my 4th year with the Dolphins did not play well. Like played at 80% most of the year and did not had broke my hand again and had a club, and it was a lot. And I was in love with that locker room, that feeling. And that was the first time I got cut. I didn't get cut, but I didn't get brought back the next year. And that's when it was interesting because we had a Tannenbaum, who I think he was a high level position at the Dolphins at the time. And at the beginning of the year, he was giving like personal letters. He gave it to like 4 or 5 people. Like Lamar Miller was one of them. I was one of them who had like a personal letter in my cubby. And it was like, we're really happy to have you here. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm on pace. I'm on pace to get that second contract. And then I ended up getting injured, ended up not having a great year. And I never heard from them again. They got rid of me ASAP. So like, that was the first time I was like, this is different. Then I go to the Oakland Raiders and it's a completely different situation. There's like the love, the locker room. That was the locker room. That was the environment that like really took the love of the game away from me. Like I felt zapped going into that locker room. And I don't know how many teams you played for, but like every culture is different. Every environment is different. And that was an environment where I knew, first off, I knew that no matter how much talent they get, they're not going to win until they do an uprooting of that culture. But yeah, that's when I started to feel the business side of things. Again, I didn't feel like I had the tools to navigate all what I was going through. And I decided not to keep going. I had an opportunity to work out for a couple of teams, but I had told my agent, like, you could just tell them. You could just tell them.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, but no thanks. And a lot of that too, Chris, was like having a lot of confidence from a child that like this was never supposed to be forever. You know, like I you know what I'm saying? So
there you go. And those are things that are I'm hoping that parents are instilling in their kids now. The purpose of this podcast to instill those things in the young athletes now, so that when they do get to that transition, they're confident that this was never supposed to be this, be my everything. It was just supposed to be a thing, one part of my life. And so that's why these conversations are important. All right, well, I'm going to do a quick pause here. We're going to do a quick 2-minute, this is our halftime, going into a halftime 2-minute here. Some rapid fire questions for you. So are you ready for these?
Yes.
All right. Hardest NFL quarterback to read?
Aaron Rodgers.
Ooh, good one. It's a good one. Especially that snap count. What trait every great linebacker must have?
Communication.
Got to be
using their hands. Using your hands as well.
What's tough? What was tougher for you? What was tougher for you mentally? Injury or roster uncertainty?
Injury.
One money mistake players should avoid.
Not getting passive income before they leave the game so that they can operate with the banks who are going to ask, where is the income coming in?
Yeah,
for real
that's a
estate.
good one. That's a really good one. Really good one. Can you give me retirement in one word for you?
Self-discovery.
I think I'm gonna stick with this one word trend here. Identity to you in one word.
It has to be one word, you said.
You can give me two. You can give me multiple.
I am.
I like it. I like it. Last one for you, because it feels like you're definitely one of those guys who are at peace. So peace and one word for you.
Alignment.
It goes all the way back to your dad, man. Goes back to that poster he had on the wall of you amongst all these greats.
Alignment to me is just like you knowing that whatever you're going through, it's like you're right where you're supposed to be. And if you keep showing up, keep moving with intention, then you know you're right where you're supposed to be. And if you can trust that you're moving with the right intention, no matter what's going on, you're supposed to be going through it. So
Absolutely. Well, we're going to jump back in. We don't have very many more here, but I want to jump back into, the walk away. You walked away at 26, where most guys either, won't or can't walk away from the game. And I can tell you, I was one of those guys, and I was probably going to, I was thinking they was going to wheel me out in a wheelchair. But, God had a different plan for me with torn Achilles, and it was time for me to hang him up. But how did you know that it was time for you to hang him up?
I knew that I was searching for something, and I felt like I wasn't able to find it while still being within the system of it. So I don't know. It was just it was an internal feeling that I needed to step away, and I needed to go into the trees or something and just like figure out what I'm dealing with, what I'm going through, what I'm feeling. So I think it was just a lot of internal discomfort. It was internal discomfort along with the confidence that I could be successful in the next phase, and I could find the thing that is going to bring me joy and fulfillment in the next phase. I'll be honest with you, I was very confident going into it, and I found out very quickly that it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
One of the big things, go for it.
No, go ahead.
I'll come back to it. I was going to say, one of the big things, as I mentioned, you asked me like the biggest financial decision. That was a big thing for me. My dad is an architect, and I was very sure that I would be doing a lot of real estate transactions with my father, buying and flipping and different things like that. And I remember finding out very quickly once I stopped playing that no matter what I had in the bank, they was like, okay, but what is your monthly income looking like? And I was like, what are you talking about? It was like, oh no. So now I got to pay with cash. I can't even work with the bank to do what I want to do. So that was the first lesson of like, oh shit, it's gonna be a little bit more challenging than I thought. that was a play for me. So
right.
Part of it was a lot of internal discomfort, the desire and the need for self-reflection and true like quietness and stillness, and confidence that, all right, this next phase of life, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna be just fine. So
yeah, man, it's great we have the mindset to go there, but it's also the having the tools to sustain there. Like we have built all these tools in sports to be able to sustain, to be able to get through it. But, what does that toolbox now look like? What tools are we rearranging there that's going to help us sustain on the other side of the coin? So you talked about, not having the tools to navigate, in some areas while you was playing, which led you to walking away. What tools do you think now, looking back, that you were searching for to help you, manage just some of those tough times that you were in?
Meditation, breath work, a gratitude practice. I do Tai Chi now every morning, every night. Journaling. Like, these are all things I got introduced to after I stopped playing. I know for a fact, if I had those tools, I would have continued to play and I would have worked through it. If I knew how to tap into a state of gratitude, if I knew how to like shift my mindset to recognizing that this is happening for me, not to me, it would have allowed me to like weather the storm. I didn't have the tools to like weather the storm. I got up out of it, So, those are some of the tools. Basically, all the tools centered around mindfulness and mental preparation.
Yeah. Mental performance key, man. It's
mental
key.
performance,
We can have a lot of athletes. A lot of us have mental toughness. We know how to pull up our boots and keep moving, keep pushing through it. But it comes a time where that stops serving us. It still serves us to have it, but it comes time where we need to pair it with something else. And so what it sounds like is you start to be able to recognize that you needed more tools to pair with the mental toughness that you had. And those tools are mindfulness, the tools of breath work and journaling. I mean, these things were introduced to me as well after my career. And as I started to have and kind of run into tough times, things are moving so fast within life, getting to those tools then helps clear my mind where I could then see, all right, here's the decision that I need to make right now. And so, because I remember having some stingers one year and just thinking after having back injuries, shoulder surgeries, two shoulder surgeries, thumb surgery in one off season, and then coming back and then started to have stingers really bad. And mentally I was just fried. And it wasn't until I started having conversation with sports psychologists, and again, building that toolbox on that mental performance side of, hey, how do I get through this? And I start to work on that. And then I realized okay, I can get through it. But I just started to scratch the surface. And so now, man, so thank you for sharing that, because I think it's important that it's okay. We do need those same tools and mental toughness. It only serves us to a point where you need the other part of what it is, and that's mental performance. So I really appreciate you sharing that side of it. Yeah,
absolutely.
As I think about the that transition, was it fear? Did people question you and question your decision, knowing that you were so young and you were so talented? What did that fall in line for you?
I think the biggest thing that was challenging was 99% of the people around me, I could tell, were genuinely concerned, like they genuinely were supportive, but there was like this inkling that I could feel where they were like trying to push me to like, you should keep playing. You should keep playing. Yeah. There was one person who I didn't feel any of that from, and that was my dad. My dad was the one person who I mentioned to, and he was like, okay. All right, we're gonna keep it pumping. We're going to the next thing. I mean, my wife now, who I love dearly, even her, she was like, nah. My mom was, my brother was, I think that's what people fail to realize is it's not just an identity crisis for the player. It's an identity crisis for the mother of the athlete, for the wife of the athlete, for the brother of the athlete. They were really used to being that, you know what I mean? So we're all going through it in our own way. So there was some resistance there. That first year and a half, I mean, that was some of the most stressed I had been. I remember I punched a hole in the wall in my home. I remember, man, there's this one moment that really shifted things for me. And I was at home, I was playing Call of Duty. I had like my headphones on. I had a big old weed bong on the table in front of me. But what happened was my wife, she had just gotten like this Polaroid camera. And the first picture that she took, she was just like trying it out. She took a picture of me and I saw the picture and I was disgusted by the picture. And that was what the picture was. It showed me I was on the couch. I had gained some weight. I had the headphones on and I had the bong in front of me. I had like 2 empty plates on the table that never made it to the sink. I had like dirty clothes around me. And I was just like, yeah. Like, what is? Yeah, that didn't feel aligned at all. But that was the moment that I needed to like kick me into gear. And I ended up reaching out to the head of player development for the Miami Dolphins, Caleb Thornhill, who was my guy. Yeah. Caleb Thornhill. You know, and it full circle moment with Pac, and I know we're both a part of Pac, but like Caleb kind of pointed me in the right direction, introduced me to someone who's now one of my mentors, took me to a Tony Robbins event that kind of just shifted my trajectory from there. But the pressure of leaving the game, knowing other people were like, you know, they wanted me to stay, partly, you know, because they knew it would probably be good for me. They knew I could get through it. But they also had like their own like personal reasons for wanting to, and me just like resisting it, me like trusting my intuition, but then going through more challenges and learning that I can't work with the bank to work with my dad. And it was like a lot of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a hard transition and we all go through it no matter how prepared we think we are, but reality sets in. The reality check is, you know, you've been doing this one thing for so long. What makes you think you can make this transition over here and not put the work in and build that foundation? And so it's a hard reality check for it, but it's the things that you learn in the game truly carries over where you now say, okay, let's put the work in. Let's put our head down. Let's create a schedule. Let's build that framework that we had, that we learned, and we just transplant it over here. So it doesn't mean that it's going to go well. It doesn't mean that it's going to fail. It just means that now you got to put the work in and get yourself back, get the foundation. And so being that you found your footing, you've gotten yourself, back into after that Polaroid picture and the reality check that you probably needed at that time, now you're sitting in a place where, you've leaned into the investment side of things, the financial literacy. Why has that been so important for you?
I mean, specifically when I see other athletes going through their transition, I see myself in them. And I see the version of myself who wish I knew. I wish somebody told me to maybe get a little property here. While I was playing, just a little simple little property. I wish I knew those things. So part of it is just wanting to give back. As I mentioned in that story, I got introduced to Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins was the one. Well, I met him, but I saw him live. I saw the experience. I didn't see a lot of people look like me. So yeah, the desire to be to speak, the desire to coach, the desire to give back in that way has been something that has continued to I've continued to pursue, and it's all been a result of seeing that version of me who needed that coaching back then.
Yeah, man, it's it's so amazing that you never know what's going to be that spark that you need. You never know. Yeah. What's going to be that thing that says, all right, okay, now it's time. You're sitting in it, and all of a sudden it's like, now it's time. All right. So I got a couple more questions for you. One is, when you look back over your life, your career, your family, and you think about that younger version of yourself, if you're sitting here talking to that, again, hindsight, talking to that, your younger version, what would you say to him?
I would tell him to breathe. I would tell him to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. I would tell them what I tell my little kids: to smell the flowers, to blow the candle. That's the most important thing. I would also tell him while he's playing to get out of his comfort zone. And what I mean by that is when we're playing, we are so used to the Caleb Thornhills of the world bringing people into our space to speak to us, to give us knowledge. We're so used to there being a curated environment for us that it almost puts us on like the passive side. And I would tell my younger self to get out of the building, to reach out to people I don't know from different walks of life, to make connections, to find other Dolphins fans who are in real estate, who are in public speaking, who are in X, Y, and Z, and to just have lunch with them. They would love to have lunch with a Dolphins player, right? So like, I would tell my younger self to prioritize building a network, meeting people, getting out of your comfort zone, and not just living a life that's curated for you. Right.
Man, that's strong right there. That's real strong. All right, last one for you. This one I like to end on when you think about the purpose of this podcast around intangibles. That foundation that you've built, when you look at it, what are several intangibles that has made you who you are today?
The biggest one is, there's a couple. One is belief. One is having that strong belief system in yourself through affirmations, like different techniques to get yourself to believe in yourself, to believe in your vision. Like that is a big intangible skill set. And another huge one that I would say is my superpower. If I gave myself a superpower, it would be coachability. It would be teachability. Like I attract mentors in my life. I have a lot of mentors in my life who probably, I didn't go to them expecting to be a mentor, but I ask questions and I'm curious. And so people want to share with me. People want to take me under their wing naturally. So I have a lot of mentors in my life, and it's because I live life coachable. I can learn from everything. I can learn from everybody. I'm coachable even with my kids. Like my kids teach me so much about myself. I look at life as like a mirror that is always reflecting lessons back to me. So like,
absolutely,
living a coachable, teachable life is another huge intangible. So I would say those two are the biggest ones: belief and being coachable. And then gratitude. Gratitude is the thing.
Yeah, man.
Gratitude is the thing.
Yeah, those are strong ones, man. Coachable takes you a long way. Learning from others and you're looking at it at the right way, a way that I've had to learn how to look at it. The world is a mirror, and it's constantly teaching me something. And so, Jelani, man, I really appreciate your vulnerability, your honesty, your leadership, and just your story on, redefining success, and not allowing, giving young people and others who may watch this podcast and listen to it, the another side of the human inside the athlete, that, there's a lot on the table. There's a lot of money to be made, and you chose to walk away from it and redefine yourself and look at you now, and to be able to share the tools that you've been able to develop throughout that transition, that has become some of the most important things that you use in life. Man, I really appreciate you sharing that story, sharing who you are. We're rooting for you, man. And again, thank you for joining the Intangible Podcast. It's been awesome.
I appreciate you as well, Chris. I'm rooting for this podcast. I'm rooting for you. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for creating space for these type of conversations. So shout out to you. Shout out to the work y'all are doing here in Intangible.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it.